Hey, g'day guys. Today we're going to start creating a new AWS account, which gives you access to all the AWS tools and services to help build out your minimum viable product. G'day, my name's Paul Greenbaugh and I'm from BitBuild, where we provide bits for business to progressively build out your idea as a minimum viable product. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're going to create a single AWS account. So this will be your first AWS account. If you already have one, that's awesome. Please follow on to the next episode where we start to secure your AWS account using AWS best practices and multi-factor authentication and IAM users and all that sort of stuff that AWS recommends so that your account does not get hacked. All right, so let's get stuck into it. On this video, you're going to see some step-by-step guides. We're going to show you everything you need to know to create your first AWS account, and then we'll follow it on and progressively in each episode to help build out your business ideas and use AWS services in the best way and the cheapest way. All right, so hang about. Let's get stuck into this technical side of things, and at the end of the video, you'll have an AWS account. Okay, so let's get going on starting a new AWS account. First of all, you just need a browser. Any browser will do. We just use Safari, but Chrome or any of those is fine. You want to navigate to the AWS website. So this is not Amazon website, it's the AWS.amazon.com website, okay? Amazon Web Services, not the Amazon place where you go and buy stuff from. Now once you're at aws.amazon.com, just click on My Account and we go to Management Console. What we want to do is start creating a new AWS account. So a single account, later on we can expand this to create multiple accounts. Now, so there is a defined way of doing this and a recommended best practice from AWS about creating a multiple account strategy. So you might have a test and staging account and a production account. So we deploy different resources in here and we can silo these or put some boundaries around these so that there's limited access to those. So of course your production account, you may have more control over who has access to it or restrict access to your production account so that you can ensure that your data that is stored there is more secure and less accessible than something you might have on a development account where you're just doing some testing with some test and abstract sort of data. So now that we're in here, it's redirected us to a sign in page. If you haven't got this, there will be a button down the bottom that says sign in as root user. You want to click on that. It's not a button, it's a hyperlink. Click on that text and it will bring you to this page. Now, because we don't actually have a user account already, we need to go and create one. So we want to create a new AWS account down the bottom. So click on that button that's down the bottom. And this just brings up another page. It's kind of like a wizard thing where we go through and put some details in there. First of all, the thing it's asking for is a root user email address. Well, what's a root user? A root user is kind of like the super user of your account. So it can do everything. It can delete the account. It has ultimate control over the account. Now the idea is that we set up this root user account, then we want to create IAM users. So later on we will create IAM users. So IAM is kind of like a roles and user management service of AWS. So we want to set that up, and we actually want to use IAM users going forward in the future, not the root user email address for logging in and creating services and things like that. So we really want to restrict how often and who uses this root user login. So, but first of all, let's create it. It's asking you for an email address. You probably have one already. Of course, if you're setting up a new domain name, you won't have access to that email address because you won't have created an email subscription or an email service for it. You can change your email later on. It does need to be unique. So if you've used this email before on a previous AWS account, you won't be able to use it again. Now the email that I've just put in here, which is my A-Bit-Built email, of course I have another account for A-Bit-Built and not this training one. So I actually am going to use an alias type notation. So you just do this little plus and then you can type in your alias name. So what that does is basically says to AWS, hey, this is unique, so it ticks their box, but all emails to paul plus training will go to my Paul email address. Okay, so we don't need to set up groups and email groups and all that sort of craziness. Just do the plus and whatever you want to call that at the end. Just remember, you're going to need to remember what that is so that when you log in as a root user account later on, you use that email address. Easy, yeah? Cool. And the account name, we're going to call this management because we're going to use this account for storing business-specific things. So things like consolidated billing. So all of your AWS accounts will get consolidated, or the bills for those will get consolidated up into this account. So you put in your payment details in one account and that covers all of the stuff. Of course, you can still look and see how much other accounts are costing, but you just get one bill, which is great. Also set up things like domain registrations. So these are critical things that you want to go to maintain and manage this business, but not necessarily let everyone else in or be able to modify. So domain names, and of course any IAM users, we spoke of these. So this could be your staff in the future. So when you want to onboard or offboard staff, you'll go to one account where you add them or delete them from, and you're able to give them access to test and prod accounts and things like that. And they just get removed from those or added to those automatically. So it's a great way of doing things and saves a lot of admin from your side. So now that we've filled in that, we just verify the email address. What that's going to do is go off to your email server, or send you off an email with a verification code, fairly common practice. So we just go to your email, and because I've actually done this a few times, it says that, and I've deleted an account previously, it says I've already reused this account. So we're just going to backtrack and add a different one. So here we are. I'm just going to call it paul.train. Okay, so because I'd previously used Paul plus training before, of course it wasn't unique and it's already been used. So I just need to change it to Paul plus train. That's fine. And once again, we just click verify. We check our emails and we have a valid code that was sent through to our email. We just put that detail in there, click verify, and it asks us to create a password. Now there are some details about uppercase letters, lowercase numbers and things like that, and length of password, so just have a look at those, make sure you follow that so that Amazon doesn't bounce your password. Anyway, you know the drill. Standard practice. And then we just click continue. Now it's just asking for some contact details just so that they can set up your billing basically. So whether you're business or personal, the only difference is it just puts an organization name in here. So we just fill in the details. When it's asking for your country, make sure you put the right country in there because it does change the way that they do their tax invoicing. So each country has, of course, different tax requirements in terms of GST or VAT or whatever other countries there are that use different taxes. So just make sure you put the right country in there and it helps set up all that for you so that you're not being exposed to any tax implications or anything like that. So make sure you tick the box at the bottom and go continue. Okay, and of course, they're asking you for credit card details. It's just for billing, of course, when you start using resources. Just one thing to note, when you do set up an AWS account, it doesn't cost you any money. When you start using resources within that, of course it will. So things like compute, storage, if you subscribe to an email service or register a domain name, things like that, they're all things that cost money. And of course, as we go through this video series, we will let you know what those costs are up front and also show you how to find out what the latest costs are because they change all the time anyway. So put in your credit card details and then click verify and continue. Okay, so now that you've entered your credit card details in, it's just trying to make sure that you're actually a human and not some API or service that's going out there creating a lot of AWS accounts. The reason why that is of course, AWS generously offers a free tier. So there's certain, say, servers and things like that and storage that you can use up to a certain limit for free, and they just give it to you for 12 months. So after that, of course, you start paying the normal pricing and things like that. So they probably just want to restrict how many accounts can get created so that not everyone's just using all the free stuff all the time. The good thing is if we design the account structure properly and if we deploy things properly on these, and this is what the goal of these video series are, is to allow you to deploy them properly, we can take advantage of this free tier. So after 12 months, we can redeploy our services and products on AWS in a new account and get another 12 months of free usage for the lower level tiers anyway. There of course becomes a time when you become a bigger business and you use beyond the free tier, which is absolutely fine because you're becoming a bigger business, becoming more successful. So that is great. So of course, they just want to confirm that you are actually a real person, and by sending you an SMS or a voice call, just put in your details. SMS is often easier rather than waiting around for someone to call you. Do the capture stuff, which I always get wrong. Let's hope I got it right now. And then send an SMS. So that's going to go out there. It'll just send you an SMS, check your phone, get the code and fill that in and click continue. Now this is the last step. Basically it's asking what sort of level of support do you want. We of course want the basic support because we haven't implemented anything yet. We don't need anything more advanced. If we're following a lot of my video series, then these are the things that we're telling you as stuff that we've done for a lot of small to medium startups already anyway. So they have been tested and you shouldn't see any issues around those. Basic support is going to be free. Of course, you can change this later on if you want to and get some more business support if that's what you're requiring later on as well. So select basic and go complete sign up. And congratulations, yay, you have an AWS account. Now you're going to get an email that'll basically say, welcome to AWS, here's some things to get started. What we want to do is actually click on this management console down the bottom here, and that will redirect you back to that login page that we started with originally. So remember, we clicked on here to create a new AWS account, but now we actually have a root user login. So remember that email that you put in before? Make sure you put that in there. Particularly if you use any aliases, just remember you have to put those aliases in there as well. It needs to be the email that was registered with this account. Put that in, and now you just your password and go sign in. Now what that's going to do, it's going to take you to the Amazon Management Console, the AWS Management Console. Now your screen may be a little bit different because of course I do use AWS quite a bit, and these icons across the top that you see here, they're just favorites that I use regularly in support of a lot of small to medium businesses and startups. These are the things that I use a lot, so we'll cover off some of these later on in future videos, but you can get a sneak peek at some of the stuff that we go into in the series. So some other things just to note on this page super quickly, any cost and usage will appear down here. If you wanted to see more detail about that, just click on this management up here and go to your billing dashboard. Also, if you did want to change any details, you can just go up to your account here and that can change things such as your email address. Now, another one that always gets everyone out is this next one just here, which is all of the AWS regions. Apologies for the bird. So AWS is a global service, so they have like a region which is a grouping or cluster of data centers. Now a data center is like a shed full of computers. Better than a shed, but you get the idea. And so it's highly resilient, but they are in regions. So there's one, for example, down here in Sydney in Australia. So there's one in Sydney, there's one in Virginia. One thing to note though, they are different pricing levels. So depending on what you're using, it'll have a different pricing structure depending on what region you're using it in. One thing we found is things like in Sydney and in Melbourne, particularly in Australia, it's probably about 10%, sometimes more expensive than what is in North Virginia. Now the reason why you would pick somewhere like Sydney is if I had a government client that was in Australia, they would require that we maintain some data sovereignty, which is basically ensuring that the data isn't shipped offshore. So we want the data to actually stay inside of data centers within regions in Australia, okay? So just bear that in mind. If you are working for government contracts, then they may have that requirement for data sovereignty, in which case you need to pick a region that is within the bounds of that government. I generally, as a startup working in sort of private space, generally I would pick North Virginia for the simple reason that generally everything new gets released in North Virginia first. It was the first region kind of that was created with AWS. So there is a lot of history there, there is a lot of infrastructure there, and obviously some older infrastructure there as well. Now the good thing about older infrastructure is that you can actually get it at a cheaper price. Okay, so you can, and this is part of the whole cloud design stuff that we're going to walk you through so that you can get using resources in the cheapest way that possible in the cloud. If you just blatantly ignore this sort of stuff and create new servers on demand everywhere, then you'll start getting hit with a quite sizable bill. You know, AWS, you pay for everything you use. They will give it to you if you ask for it, and you know, you'll keep getting billed for it. So we implement a lot of strategies around using resources effectively, finding the way to use them most cost efficiently, and that's the sort of information that we provide to you so that you're not hit with big bills and no surprises. That's the idea of, you know, what we do. So generally we use North Virginia, as I say, just for that, because we want to be a global service. We do use a lot of offline processing, so hence a lot of we want to use a lot of that older infrastructure for, they call it spot pricing, instead of on-demand pricing. So, you know, we just use excess resources, and we get it generally about 70% cheaper, because we do it that way. So it's all about the design of cloud. You need to, you know, think about how cloud works and how your resources work, and that's what we guide you through. So anyway, we use North Virginia, so just make sure you pick the correct region that you want to work in before you do anything and consume services, because they'll just get created in whatever region you pick. So anyway, there you go. We've just created an AWS account. As I say, in later videos, we will create some additional accounts like test and prod for testing and production following AWS best practices. We will show you how to create IAM users later on, as we start creating some more teams and more people that need to be created as well. I certainly hope you got some use from this video. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Tick the bell icon too, please. Any new videos that we create or new episodes that we create, we'd love for you to see them, because I'll have super relevant content to this. We're going to always be creating new videos on this theme, along this series, so that you can start building up your minimum viable products in this progressive way that we do things. Make sure you like, share it with your friends too if you've got any use from this, and provide some comments as well. Anything that we can improve for you to make your life easier, we'd love to know about it. All right, that's pretty cool, isn't it? You now have an AWS account with access to all of the tools and services that you're going to need for your minimum viable product, and start building it out. So follow on for the next episode where we're going to secure this account. So it's super important that you do this. We'll be setting up multi-factor authentication on your root user email address, which is really important to do. And IAM users, your first IAM user, so that you can use it to administer your account going further forward into the future. So the next episode is super important. Please make sure you watch it. It's about securing your AWS account using AWS best practices. You really do need to do this. AWS will not look lightly upon it if your account does get hacked and you rack up a bill and you haven't implemented these additional security measures like multi-factor authentication and using IAM users. So we'll set that up in the next episode. Please make sure you subscribe and like, and tick the bell icon as well. So when we do publish the next episode, you'll be the first one to see it, and you can start getting onto it to secure your account. So make sure you subscribe, super important, does help us out a lot as well. And if you've already done that, then you're just awesome. Thanks so much for your support. So anyway, go out there, create your first AWS account. We'll get it all set up for you, and then we'll follow it through to the next episodes so that we can start building out your product and idea. You go out there and you have a great day. See ya, bye.